video. So this week I've been driving the 2023 Honda Civic Type R. So about the Type R, this thing is just a beast. It is so much fun to live with. It is hilarious fun, and you know, I mean, I think I did a really comprehensive, good review on the Type R whenever it first came out. So definitely check out that video for all the specs, all the details, all of my, you know, deep thoughts on this vehicle. This video is going to primarily focus on what it's like to live with, what other impressions I have after, you know, living with one actually now for a week and not just doing one very fun day of driving it, you know, all day. So what I can say is that it is hilarious that a car in the model year 2023 has traction control that's this loose. I think that's the one thing this week I've just been blown away by, like, where is traction control? I'm not complaining, I love it, but it is hilarious how it just lets you spin and spin and spin. And I have yet to find the limit to traction control. I mean, I don't see any time when it actually intervenes. So if it is intervening, it's not lighting up the dash, and it's very subtle in the way that it does it. But I mean, I was even driving through some rain last night and really getting on it. I mean, it is just spinning all over the place, even torque steering towards the side of the road and everything. And it just, you know, there's just like no intervention, which I actually like, because it means that you have to, you know, use your brain driving this car. You have to be smart about it, and it takes skill still. Even though it's front wheel drive, it's not this brainless experience like you might expect from something that's front wheel drive. And I really love it. And I also, you know, since I have lived with an Integra Type S for a week, comparing those back to back and what it's like, you know, to live with both of them, I do appreciate the extra mid-range torque in the Type S. That does make it a little more of a less Jekyll and Hyde kind of feeling versus this. But this also has really solid punch at all RPMs, and you know, there's just a little bit more delay. Like an Integra probably would have started pulling a little harder coming out of the corner there, you know, with that same throttle input than this does. You know, it's minor, but I think that not having that mid-range torque also can be fun in this, having, you know, just a little bit more of a waiting period and a little bit more of an explosive top end in the way they tuned the Type R. And I love them both equally. It just comes down to personal preference. Honestly, powertrain wise, it'd be really tough for me to choose between which one I like better. Now, I will certainly say the Integra has the better exhaust. I like the crackling and the popping, but I'm also, you know, really still happy with this exhaust. They have made it louder than the last generation a little bit, and I actually really like these piped in sounds. You know, it reminds me of the old school Honda stuff, and yes, it might not be 100% authentic. I don't care. It sounds good, and to me, it's better than having it be silent or having some loud, drony aftermarket exhaust. So to me, I really love the way they set this up, and I think I'd actually be happy with the stock exhaust and sound setup in this vehicle. They did a really good job, and I also love how you have all the individual modes, so you can customize all that stuff. So you can turn off the fake sound if you want, or you can, you know, amp it up. Like I have it in its loudest setting here now because I'm all about more sound. So I love that. I also love that the individual mode remembers your preferences. So every time, even when you get out, you know, key cycle the car, whatever, when you get back in, it still has it in that individual mode with all of your settings dialed in, which is great because, for example, the GR Corolla does not remember it. In that car, every time I got in, I had to turn on the auto rev matching, put the torque split for the all-wheel drive system into its sportiest setting, and I had like a pre-flight checklist of things that I did before I set off. This, you hop in, you start it up, and you go, and it's all saved, and it's great. I've also been pretty impressed with the refinement here this week. So we're on a rougher road now. It does generate some more road noise, so you're certainly hearing that. But the Civic is so refined. I mean, this whole vehicle is certainly a good bit more refined, I'd say, than the GR Corolla. Not by a huge margin, but it certainly does have some extra refinement, in my opinion. But anyway, coming up to my own favorite back roads here that I always review all of my cars on. See how this thing handles, and it is still, I mean, I'm also, by the way, in my individual settings that I'm in currently, I have it in the comfort suspension setting, and it still handles like it's on rails. And I know that term is thrown around very loosely, but it is so posed and just so composed, and just, I don't know, it just, to me, it blows me away how it is so perfect and perfected with the setup. And you know, every time I drove this, and the Acura for that matter, I just kept feeling how it's such a good car. It does everything exactly the way you want it to, in a perfect and gratifying manner. And it really is just so good, you know, for front wheel drive. Now, I will say though that whenever you are really tearing up a back road, this I believe, really, to me at least, feels like it has lower limits than the GR Corolla, for example. With that, you know, you have the all-wheel drive system, which greatly enhances the handling, allows you to punch it coming out of a corner and get faster corner exits in that vehicle, which also feels a little lighter than this. I mean, curb weights are, pretty close, but I'd say that, that also felt a little, the steering was lighter in that, so it felt a little more eager to turn in than this does, and is a little more tossable in the GR Corolla versus this, which I think is a little more measured with its responses. And the steering's heavier. Even in the comfort mode, I have the steering set up in, you have to throw it in a little more intentionally, and you just have to be a little more intentional with all of your movements in this vehicle. But that adds a little bit of effort, but it also does add some extra gratification there as well, because you are working, I think, a little harder with this on a back road compared with a GR Corolla, for example. I don't know, they're fun in different ways. I've been loving this hot hatch summer I've been having, where I've had basically the entire lineup of hot hatches here to try out, for a week all summer here. And I mean, this is definitely in my top two. This and the GR Corolla and Integra. This is still tied with the Integra as far as which I would prefer. Now, I think, if I were buying one myself, I still think I would probably spend the few $1,000s extra. I know it's several thousand extra, but to have the exhaust, and also not only that, but the more comfortable seats. These seats are a little stiff. They're very comfortable and they hug you in really well. But hopping over these bolsters and stuff all week, it has been. I mean, we're talking really dumb first world complaints, but me, I like the extra comfort of the Integra, and I also have to say the ride is stiffer in this than the Integra, and it's also stiffer than it is in an FK8 refresh previous gen Type R. That was like a magic carpet ride in its comfort mode. This in comfort mode is not that good. It just simply isn't. The ride is not as good as the FK8 refresh, in my opinion. That was like insanely like Cadillac smooth. I don't know how they did it, but I wish that this retained that, and instead comfort mode seems to have gotten a little bit stiffer. Now, again, if you're into hot hatches, you're an enthusiast that likes fun sporty cars, this is far from beating you up. I think if you're on really rough roads all the time, it might get a little tiresome, but honestly, I think for a vehicle like this, it's what you expect. And yes, it'd be nice if comfort mode was a little softer, but I think it's totally fine. I would still happily daily drive this in its comfort mode and be totally fine. Certainly not a deal breaker or anything, but just wanted to mention, if you are coming out of an FK8 and you really like the soft ride quality of that refreshed version especially, I would say, you're going to have a slight downgrade in the smoothness of your ride quality, at least, in this, new version. And another acceleration here, because why not? This thing is strong though, and I do have to say that it is certainly clear to me now, after just living with the GR Corolla for a few weeks back, this certainly feels stronger. It is a stronger engine. I mean, it's, an extra cylinder and, some extra horsepower there as well. But, with that car, it really relies on the turbo, and it's a lot of fun. And I talked in that video about how it really reminds me of the old Evos and STIs. This is really kind of a little more mature and evolved from those old school, peaky days. This still, again, can feel a little peakier compared to the Integra, but it's just so strong all through the RPM band, and it's really so polished and so linear with its power delivery, which is certainly a difference between this and the GR Corolla. But it certainly feels stronger, especially as you're up and moving, and it continues to pull and pull and pull, where the GR Corolla maybe runs out of steam a little bit sooner. This continues to feel really strong, and so, yes, it's a few $1,000s more and 2 less driven wheels than the GR Corolla, but, in a straight line, this certainly is more car. Although, I don't know, the GR Corolla still might have this beat in a race if this thing's always struggling to put the power down. But I love it. I love it. I love it. I actually would be sad if it put down the power better, because I think that adds the fun that you want from a front-wheel drive hot hatch. And I absolutely love this thing. Every single time it lit up those front tires, I just had a huge grin on my face. But what I can say though, they did increase the width of the tires. They're up to 265s now, and I don't recall if, when I had an FK8 for a week, if that was as prone to wheel spin as this is, but this feels, even though the tires got wider, it feels more prone to wheel spin. And I'll try out some acceleration with the wheel turned to show you. I mean, the limit slip diff does such a good job of sucking you into the corner, and it's really fun. But it's kind of funny how it just really was a little all over the place in the wet. And so if you are someone who wants to daily drive one of these things, You know, I would say if you live in a place that does get, you know, some bad weather, especially snow, you know, I don't know the tire situation as far as, you know, snow tires goes for these. You know, if you can go down to a skinnier tire with these brakes or not, but I mean, I just have my doubts that this would actually do very well in the winter time, just because it is so prone to wheel spin in the dry and just in normal summer wet roads, that, you know, if you encountered snow in this, I'm not optimistic it would do great. Obviously you could take it easy and stuff, but you know, just one little thing I want to mention is that since these tires are so wide, yeah, they might not do as great in, you know, bad weather compared to the other stuff. And of course, if you do live in a place that gets a lot of bad weather, I would recommend the GR Corolla anyway. You get the all-wheel drive or the Golf R if that's more your thing, you know, to give you that extra confidence and traction. But more tight corners here. Yeah, this, this thing, it's really addictive though, going around corners. It's like, I just want to find another tighter corner and punch it out of, coming out of that corner, because it's feeling this diff do its work is so enjoyable. And it's just, oh man, it is just a, I don't know, it's just, there's something about it that's just so fun and just gives me the fizz in all the ways. So yes, still absolutely love the Civic Type R. It'll really come down to your preferences again as far as driven wheels, the interior niceties. I do have to say, you know, even though the GR Corolla does offer heated seats, I mean, these seats, you know, being cloth, you're not going to miss heating, and you're not going to even miss the cooling, you know, because the Golf R offers cooled seats. But, you know, with cloth seats, I think that's really not a big deal. Yes, it'd be nice to have a moonroof. It'd be nice to have a heated steering wheel or some other things. But, you know, none of that stuff matters. When you get behind the wheel on this thing, and it's as fast and as enjoyable to drive as it is, you know, you're not going to miss any of that stuff, because you'll be having too much fun to pay attention to that stuff. You know, just the whole interior, though, it is built nicer, certainly far nicer than the Corolla's interior. So this is certainly a nicer car to live with. You also have more space than the GR Corolla with a bigger back seat, bigger trunk, way more practicality than that car. You know, so there are some other really nice improvements here to this as well. Now again, you pay a few $1,000s more. Again, if we're talking sticker prices, which I know is hard to do with all the markups everywhere for everything these days, but that's all I can use as a fair judge of a car, is its MSRP pricing. What you pay is, you know, up to you, but you know, as far as the MSRPs go, you know, this one, as tested by the way, is $45,345, and you know, I think it's a ton of car for the money, especially again considering how nice this interior is. You have the Bose stereo and all that, so it actually does feel like you're getting, you know, a pretty nice interior. Not a 45 grand interior, but you're getting a pretty nice interior for a car that, you know, mainly has the focus of you're paying for the performance, and you know, going into it with that mindset. And I already did a full competitor comparison thing at the end of my regular Type R video, so I'm not going to get into all this again, but I just have to point out that, you know, I still feel like the Elantra N is really similar fun for about $11,000 less. And yes, this is more composed, that has more wheel hop, the interior is cheaper feeling, there's less refinement, less power for sure. I mean, you're down, you know, almost 40 horsepower. You know, there's definitely some things to be said for this over the Elantra N, and if you have the disposable cash, go for it. But if you're someone who's a little more price sensitive, or you just can't find one of these at a good price, and maybe you can find an Elantra N, you know, at its MSRP or something, further distancing these two price-wise, I just have to say that, you know, I probably, if it were my own money, I would still just be happy with an Elantra N. It's most of the same fun for way less money. To me, that's the only problem with the Type R, is that the Elantra N exists. If it wasn't for that, I'd say, you know, as long as, you know, you want the extra space and stuff and the GR Corolla doesn't appeal to you, I'd say this is, you know, definitely going to be the way to go. But with the Elantra N still being there, obviously it's not a hatch, so it's not a direct competitor, I guess you could say, but most people do cross-shop them. And to me, I still think Elantra N is the better value, performance value of the bunch. But aside from that, you know, just fantastic. And, you know, I still think it's like this and the Integra are tied for second. I still personally, the GR Corolla pulls on my heartstrings just a little bit more, but this is really close, and you can't go wrong buying any of these three vehicles, in my opinion. They're all fantastic. They're all way more fun than the Golf R was, in my opinion. So if, you know, you're trying to eliminate one, I'd say the Golf R is the easy one to to knock off the running. Personally, again, unless you want the most things per dollar, then that is the best value of the, all having the leather and the heated and cooled seats and, all the other, stuff. So if that stuff's important to you, great. But for me, I would much rather have this, the Integra or the GR Corolla. And yeah, I'm kind of thankful I'm not in the position to choose between these vehicles with my own real money, because it would be so hard, because I really am torn. They are all fantastic in their own ways. I just think I'd probably choose GR Corolla, but this is really neck and neck, and it's tough to choose. But anyway, the last little quick thing I do want to mention, though, is my fuel economy, which is another thing that actually really impressed me this week. I've been getting, even with my pretty abusive driving this thing hard, having a lot of fun, didn't do hardly any highway driving, by the way. I'm averaging 22 mpg exactly, and these are rated 22 in the city, 28 on the highway, and 24 combined. So you might think that's unremarkable. I'm hitting the city rating, big deal. But typically I get 1 to 2 mpg less than the city rating, just loafing around doing my normal errands in the average vehicle that I review on these same roads. So the fact that this is actually hitting that city number, and I've been driving it really hard and having a lot of fun, makes me think these could actually overperform the EPA estimates, in my opinion. And again, to be getting this kind of fuel economy out of something that's this fast is really impressive. I mean, that is far better fuel economy than even the much slower Subaru WRX gets. That has all-wheel drive, but this is just really solid. I will add, it is about 2 mpg less than I was getting in a GR Corolla. Not identical driving, but just worth mentioning that little 3-cylinder, when you're not getting on it, really is super good on gas. But this is still super good to get 22 mpg in something this fast and this fun. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Civic Type R. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Honda for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. And thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Oh, the shifter still feels so good too.